She never knew her lonely customer was the hotel's secret billionaire. The shocking truth unveiled. In the small town of Maplewood, Jasmine worked at the quaintest little hotel you could imagine. Each day felt routine, mundane even, until one stormy night changed everything. The wind roared like a wild animal, and the rain fell in sheets, creating a symphony of chaos outside. That's when he walked in, a tall figure, drenched, with the kind of air that demanded attention. His eyes held secrets, each glance sharper than the lightning that lit the sky. The moment their eyes met, something shifted. Jasmine felt a shiver run down her spine. There was a certain distance in his polite smile, a flicker of sadness that made her heart ache just a little. "Just a room for one night," he said quietly, but it felt like more than that. She noticed how he hesitated at the front desk, his hands nervously fidgeting with his collar, as if trying to hide something deeper inside. As he signed the register, the ink barely dried before he handed it back, and each stroke of his pen seemed to whisper a story, one of loneliness, of loss. Time passed like molasses, and as she served him coffee that night, the air crackled with unspoken words. The way he stirred the cup slowly felt deliberate, as if he was mixing in his sorrows. Jasmine watched others glance his way, their curiosity palpable. "Who is he?" they wondered. "Just another guy." But he wasn't. She could feel it in her bones. Then, an old newspaper clipping fell from his bag as he reached for his wallet. It fluttered to the floor, revealing a blurry photo of him standing in front of a mansion. Instinct kicked in, and before she knew it, she picked it up. The headline screamed about mergers, fortunes, and a last name that echoed like thunder across the city: Jameson. The same name spoken in hushed tones among the wealthy. Her heart raced as she realized he wasn't just anyone, he was someone, an heir, a ghost hiding from reality. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." Suddenly, the room felt smaller. The weight of his hidden identity loomed over them like a storm cloud ready to burst. What was this man running from? Her mind raced, each heartbeat echoing the question. Just then, he turned to her, his eyes intense, searching her for something: truth, compassion, understanding. And in that moment, everything seemed to shift. Why had he chosen her to share his story? As her breath hitched in her throat, leaves rustled outside, a hint of the chaos still raging beyond the hotel walls. In a place where no one truly belonged, could she unravel the mystery of her lonely customer? The answers felt just out of reach. Jasmine stood frozen, staring into the depths of the stranger's eyes. The intensity of his gaze pierced through the chatter of the nearby tables, silencing her thoughts. Was he really who she thought he was? The weight of the newspaper clipping pressed in her pocket, a secret tightening its grip. She felt a thrill of fear mixed with excitement. This was a world far from her own, yet it beckoned her like a siren's call. "What do you do, Mr. Jameson?" she asked, her voice quivering slightly. The question slipped out before she could stop herself. Would he answer? Would he open up? He hesitated, a shadow flickering across his face. "Let's just say I'm taking a break from everything." His words hung between them, thick as the rain outside. Jasmine's heart sank. What did everything mean? The unease that had settled in the pit of her stomach shifted into a sense of urgency. She needed to know more. "I get it," she said softly, stepping closer, drawn in by the mystery he draped around himself like a cloak. "Sometimes you just need to escape from your life." She held her breath, waiting for him to let her in. A flash of vulnerability crossed his face, and he nodded. "Exactly. Sometimes you just need to find a place where you can breathe." Was it her imagination, or was there a deeper layer to his words? Maybe he was just another lost soul, but there was a magnetism about him that pulled her in like gravity. As if sensing the sudden intimacy, a loud crash of thunder shook the hotel, causing the lights to flicker. Jasmine jumped, clutching the edge of the counter for support. She glanced around as the other guests turned their heads, eyes wide with surprise. It was as if the storm had unleashed a chaos, not just outside but within the very core of the hotel. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice dropping to a softer tone, filled with a hint of protectiveness. "I'm fine," she replied, though her heart raced for reasons she couldn't fully understand. A new tension crackled in the air, something heavy, charged, and intoxicating. In that moment, the hotel's entrance swung open, bearing the storm's fury. Two men bustled inside, soaked from head to toe, their expression grave. The atmosphere shifted, like the world had tilted on its axis. Jasmine instinctively stepped back, her gut churning as she sensed the shift in energy. "Where is he?" one of the newcomers barked, scanning the room. Jasmine's breath caught in her throat. It was as if they were searching for him, the hidden billionaire she had just uncovered. Who are you looking for?" Her voice trembled, barely above a whisper. The man turned to her, his eyes narrowing. "Jameson. We need to speak to him." Jasmine's heart raced. The stranger beside her straightened, nerves rippling through him. She could see the tension in his shoulders as he took a half step back, almost retreating. Why were they looking for him? What had he done? "You need to leave." Panic surged in her veins, and she could hardly recognize her own voice as it came out. "You shouldn't be here." The two men exchanged a glance, confusion and annoyance mingling in their expressions. "We have business, miss." Before the man could finish, Jasmine blurted, "He's not here." Silence fell hard, thick enough to choke on. The man's eyes locked onto hers, and she could see the wheels turning in his mind. "Then where is he?" Jasmine looked up at the brown-eyed stranger, only to find him gone, disappeared into the shadows of the dining area as if he had never existed. Her heart raced as adrenaline coursed through her. What was happening? The men moved closer, and in that moment, with the storm howling like a banshee outside, Jasmine knew she was standing at the edge of something dark and dangerous. What lay ahead could change everything. The door creaked open, revealing a figure from the shadows once more. It was him. But was he there to help her or to silence her? Jasmine's heart raced as the shadowy figure moved closer, rain dripping from his tousled hair. "You shouldn't have lied," he murmured, stepping into the hazy light of the hotel bar. His voice was low, and the weight of his gaze made the air around her shift, suffocating her with unasked questions. "What do you want from me?" she managed to say, the bile of fear rising in her throat. Who was this man really? He opened his mouth to respond but then glanced over his shoulder. The two men were still scanning the room, their anticipation palpable. Their focus fell on her. "You need to leave. Now." The urgency in his tone pierced through her shock, but she couldn't tear her eyes away from the sleek lines of his jaw, the confident way he stood. There was something magnetic about him that pinned her in place. "Why? What's happening? And why are they looking for you?" His eyes bore into her, searching for something she wasn't sure she could give. "They're not just looking for me, Jasmine," he said, his voice barely above a whisper but laced with tension. "They're looking for answers. Dangerous answers." Thunder cracked outside, rumbling ominously. Jasmine glanced towards the door, panic flooding her senses. She could feel the storm outside mirroring the turmoil within. "I can't leave you here," she insisted, a mix of defiance and concern. "You need help." "Help? The kind that leads to trouble?" He shot back, hardening his expression. A moment passed where the noise of the hotel faded, leaving only their shared urgency. "What's your real name?" she asked, pushing against the fear that bound her. "Is it Jameson? Or something else?" "Names don't mean much in this world," he replied, eyes narrowing. What matters is what I'm trying to protect, and it's not just me. Before she could blink, the two men surged forward, closing the distance between them with an alarming intensity. Move aside, the first one commanded, eyes fixated on the stranger, muscles tense and ready. No. Jasmine shouted, stepping between them. She was surprised at her own courage, but fear fed her determination. You can't just take him. The second man smirked, a predatory gleam in his eye. And why not? Are you attached to him, sweetheart? Enough. The stranger barked, stepping into action. He grabbed Jasmine firmly by the wrist, pulling her behind him as he confronted the newcomers. The flicker of authority in his stance drew her in further, igniting a rush of adrenaline. You don't want this fight, the stranger said, his voice steady, yet she felt the tremor in his grip. You're treading where you shouldn't be. The tension hung thick, like a taut wire ready to snap. The men exchanged glances again, weighing their options. We're not leaving without him, the first man declared, drawing closer, almost invading their space. Then you'll regret this, the stranger warned, and for the first time, Jasmine noticed the dangerous glint in his eyes. It wasn't just about escape, it was about an upcoming confrontation, one that could explode. With the storm howling louder, unrelenting, she realized this was not just a fight for his safety, it was her own life on the line too. Why had she engaged? What was the truth hidden in this situation? Before she could process her next move, a crashing sound reverberated from the entrance. The door swung open wider, rain swirling like a curtain of chaos behind it. What now? Just when she thought they couldn't be cornered further, more figures stepped into the fray, cloaked in shadows. They weren't the typical hotel guests, that was clear. Stay back. Jasmine shouted, her heart leaping into her throat. But what was coming toward them wasn't merely a gang, it was something deeper, darker, an ultimatum brewing in the storm. Was this the end or the beginning of something far worse? The door slammed against the wall, and the chaotic howl of the storm outside flooded into the bar. A gust of wind followed the figures as they entered, dampening Jasmine's clothes and chilling her skin to the core. Their eyes, masked and intent, flickered with an intensity that pierced through the dim lighting. The air felt electric, charged with fear and determination, a pulse that synchronized with the pounding in her chest. Get out of the way, girl, one of them growled, a low timbre that seemed to resonate off the cracked walls. He stared at the stranger, protectively shielding her, his gaze cold and menacing. No. Jasmine shouted, her voice trembling but resolute. She could feel the man beside her tensing, muscles coiling like a drawn bowstring. You don't have to do this. Don't be foolish. He hissed, eyes darting between the new arrivals and the original threat. They don't care about you. I don't care. The words burst from her like an uncontrollable flame. I'm not letting them take you. The moment hung suspended, an unyielding silence that stretched until the first man hurled himself toward them. The stranger spun, pulling Jasmine with him as he sidestepped, narrowly avoiding the assault. Who are these people? She shouted, desperation threading through her voice. What do they want? They want what I have, he replied, his voice sharp, laced with urgency. And they'll stop at nothing to get it. Before she could process that chilling revelation, chaos erupted. Fists clashed and bodies collided, creating a whirlpool of motion that sent scattered tables and chairs skidding across the floor. Jasmine stumbled, caught in the chaotic push, but the stranger steadied her, his hand firm on her back. Stay close. He commanded, a fierce protectiveness shining through his previous cool demeanor. But Jasmine couldn't shake the fear tightening around her throat. With every punch thrown and every scream that echoed, she felt the weight of the room, the stakes climbing higher with each passing second. What was he involved in? What dangerous secrets lay buried beneath their frantic encounter? Then, as if orchestrated by fate, the lights flickered violently, casting alarming shadows around the room. In that turbulent moment, she caught a glimpse of the man's face, fury, desperation, and something else, something that seemed to plead with her. "Jasmine!" he shouted over the din, "you need to trust me. There's no time to waste." With a sudden jolt of clarity, she understood. This wasn't just about the man before her, it was a battle against a hidden world, a shadowy landscape filled with greed and ambition. A fight that had spiraled out of control, tangled in deceit and treachery that extended far beyond this hotel bar. The storm outside intensified, mirroring the chaos inside. Sheets of rain splattered against windows, the sound jarring against the tumult. Thunder cracked like a whip, shaking memories of normalcy away. "Make a choice, Jasmine," he shouted as he punched with precision, disarming one attacker who lunged at them. "Either you run now while you can, or you stand with me." Her world tipped sideways. Her choice weighed heavy on her heart, one that would change everything. Could she choose to fight? Could she really face whatever awaited them with the bite of the storm at their backs and malevolence in front? But as another opponent approached, determination surged through her veins. Maybe this was her moment, not just to escape but to become part of something greater. "Then let us do this." Jasmine steeled herself, fueled by a fierce sense of rightness. With the storm raging on, she prepared to fight beside him. But what if it wasn't just their lives at stake? What if lurking in the shadows was a truth waiting to be uncovered, something that could dismantle everything they believed about this night and themselves? Just as they readied for the next wave of confrontation, she couldn't shake a chilling thought. What if the more they fought, the more dangerous the truth would become? Jasmine's heart thundered as the storm continued its brutal symphony outside. The pounding rain matched the chaotic rhythm of the fight, each body tumbling across the floor like leaves caught in a gale. Adrenaline surged through her. She sensed that this was going to be the moment that defined her. With every crash and shout, she felt anger bloom inside her, the kind of anger that emerged only in desperate times. She had spent too long feeling invisible, so lost in her mundane life. Yet here, amidst the violence, she found a startling clarity. She was a participant now, not just an observer. "Watch your back," the stranger barked, swinging an arm to block a flying punch aimed at Jasmine. The force caught him square in the torso, but he didn't buckle. Instead, he staggered, then twisted back, unleashing a flurry of strikes that pushed their attackers back. "Who are you?" she yelled as they ducked and wove through their adversaries, the gnashing teeth of the storm outside clamoring for attention. "Just tell me." "No time," he shouted between blows. "Just know that they won't stop until they get what they want." As chaos reigned, the bar erupted in chaos. Glass shattered, chairs overturned, and screams punctuated the air. The patrons froze in fear, some ducked beneath tables, while others fled as the masked figures pushed forward without mercy. But Jasmine stood her ground, her mind racing. Then, just as the tide seemed to turn against them, a deep crash echoed through the bar. The front door was slammed open wider than before, a torrent of rain and wind lashing into the scene. The figures paused for a brief moment, eyes darting toward the doorway, as if sensing something worse than each other joining the fray. "Now!" the stranger shouted, grabbing her wrist, pulling her toward the door. "We go now." "I can't leave," she protested, fear clutching at her throat. "What about you?" "They're not after me," he replied, urgency pouring from his words. "I'll hold them back. Just run." For a heartbeat, she hesitated, caught between instinct and loyalty. But when her eyes met his, she saw a flicker of something. Was it trust? Or maybe madness? But before she could respond, he shoved her toward the door, his face contorted with desperation. As she stumbled into the downpour, the cold raindrops lashed against her skin, her senses jolted back to life. But she felt the pull of danger behind her, knowing the masked figures weren't going to take no for an answer. They roared after her, a chorus of fury and determination. "This way!" She turned at a shout, spotting a narrow alley just off the street. She sprinted toward it, adrenaline propelling her forward even as self-doubt whispered in her ear. As she pressed deeper into the shadows, a gust of wind howled through, sweeping around her like a ghost. She glanced back just in time to see the stranger fighting against the overwhelming numbers. He was outnumbered, a lone warrior in a losing battle. In that unsettling moment, she realized the truth that chased her: this wasn't just an ordinary fight, it was a battle for something far greater. The man's insistence to not be involved echoed in her mind, then a flicker of recognition broke through her haze: his face from that night when she thought he was just a lonely customer, invisible in plain sight. Suddenly, a figure broke away from the onslaught and sprinted toward her. Panic sliced through her: it was one of the masked attackers. As he neared, she stiffened and assessed her options. Would running lead to safety, or was facing the truth, even if it was dangerous, the only path forward? With a deep breath, she pulled herself together. It was time to confront this reality. The danger was closing in from both sides, but could she muster the courage to uncover what lay ahead? "Who are you?" she shouted, steeling herself against the worsening storm. And just as the man reached for her, the world around her shifted again. Shadows swirled dangerously close, blurring the lines of right and wrong. In that moment, Jasmine understood: it was no longer a quest for survival. It was a battle for answers. What secrets did the man hold that would intertwine their fates forever? Just as uncertainty gripped her, she faced the man, resolute. "Tell me the truth," she demanded, ready for the storm waiting to break loose within the answers. The masked figure charged at her, a blur against the dark alleyway. Jasmine's blood ran cold. She had only seconds to act. Instead of fleeing, she stood her ground, the adrenaline racing through her veins. Her heart thudded like a war drum, the truth simmering at the edge of her consciousness. "Stop!" she cried, raising her hands, desperate to halt him. To her shock, the man hesitated, a flicker of confusion crossing his eyes. For a heartbeat, it was just them in that chaotic storm, two souls colliding in a furious world. "Why?" he spat, grace momentarily faltering. "Because I want to know. I want to know why you're after me." The rain plastered her hair against her cheeks, rivulets of water mingling with the sweat of fear. The figure's gaze flickered. Something in her tone sparked recognition. But just as his mask slipped, a growl echoed behind him. "Get her." The distraction was all it took. Another masked figure came rushing down the alley, fists clenched and ready to pummel. Without thinking, she twisted away, throwing herself to the side just as he lunged for her. A stinging pain grazed her arm as she barely escaped his grasp. "Run!" the first man shouted, snapping back into action. He shoved her again, urgency erupting from his voice. "You need to get out of here." "No!" she screamed, her voice raw, battling against the storm. "I want to leave you." But as if her words had triggered a cruel joke of fate, the alley exploded into chaos. A loud crash echoed behind them. The other masked figures were gaining ground. Jasmine's pulse quickened as she searched for an escape, her senses heightened. "Trust me," he yelled, desperation filling his voice. "Do you want to know the truth? Then let me help you." She could see it, the struggle beneath his mask, not just a want to protect her but an urge to keep something buried safe. Conflicting thoughts churned in Jasmine's mind. "Tell me, and I'll go," she cried, teetering between the need for the truth and the primal urge to survive. "I'm not who you think I am," he shouted back, energy crackling between them. "I can't explain now." Just suddenly, he was grabbed from behind, fingers clamped around his throat. Jasmine's breath caught in her throat. The second man had come from nowhere, a shadow of menace closing in like the storm threatening to swallow them whole. "Get out of here, Jasmine." He struggled, the weight of the other man's strength pressing him down. With a newfound determination, she sprang into action. The confrontation erupted within her as a surge of anger fueled her movements. She couldn't abandon this man, not when the stakes were rising. Shoving the nearest trash bin aside, she picked up a metal rod discarded on the ground. It was heavy, but she didn't care. Gripping it tight, she charged at the attackers, her heart racing. "Get away from him!" she yelled, raising the rod above her head. Time hung heavy. The masked attacker turned, surprise flickering in his eyes. In that fleeting moment, Jasmine brought the rod crashing down, adrenaline pulsing through her, and heard a satisfying crack echo in her ears. He stumbled back, releasing his grip on the stranger, who took the chance to rise, grabbing Jasmine's arm. "Now, we move!" he barked, and they tore down the alley together, each step a defiance against the storm. As they rounded the corner, his breath was ragged, eyes filled with a mix of gratitude and something deeper. With every hurried step, the weight of the moment bore down on both of them. "What are you hiding?" Jasmine said between breaths, the desire for answers burning relentlessly in her chest. He exhaled sharply, a glimpse of pain flashing through his gaze. "You have no idea what you're about to uncover and how dangerous it is." The shadows behind them loomed closer as they burst into the street, shouts echoing through the rain-soaked streets. Just ahead, a car skidded to a halt, tires screaming against the wet pavement. "Get in!" he ordered, urgency like a knife at their backs. With no choice but to trust him or maybe herself, she dove into the vehicle, her heart racing, the world beyond a blur of anxiety and thrill. But the question twisted in her mind like a sharp blade: what danger had she invited into her life? As the engine roared to life, the masked figures regrouped, their eyes burning with a fierce determination. The chase was just beginning, and the unfolding truth loomed ahead, darker than the storm. What secrets lay waiting to shatter her reality? What was the real reason they were after her? And as they sped away, one thing was certain: Jasmine was no longer an observer in her own life. She was a player on a stage set for chaos, racing toward the truth, and it might cost her everything. The car shot down the slick street, tires struggling for grip as the rain hammered down. Jasmine's heart raced, the adrenaline still thrumming in her veins. She stole a glance at the man beside her, the one whose secrets had thrown her into this nightmare. His jaw was clenched, eyes focused ahead, but something flickered in his expression, urgency mixed with a dark weight she couldn't understand. "Who are you?" she blurted out, the words spilling from her lips like panic. "And why do they want me?" "Not now," he snapped, gripping the wheel tighter. "Just hold on." The roar of the engine drowned out her protests. Jasmine's stomach twisted as they turned sharply, skidding into a narrow side street. Buildings loomed overhead like silent giants, their shadows swallowing the last rays of daylight. It felt like they were tumbling deeper into a rabbit hole, and she wasn't sure if she wanted to follow. Ahead, she spotted a flicker of light, a small shop with a flickering sign. As they approached, the man yanked the wheel, pulling sharply into the dimly lit parking lot. "Get out!" He barely turned to her, his tone fierce, but his eyes danced with desperation. "What? Why?" She hesitated, worry clawing at her throat. "Just trust me," he insisted, urgency vibrating in his voice. Jasmine's instinct screamed for her to bolt, but something in his eyes, a glimmer of honesty, held her fast. She pushed the door open and climbed out, her legs shaky beneath her. They raced toward the shop, slick pavement beneath their feet, breathing heavily in the chilling air. Inside, the shop was cluttered with odd trinkets and shadows. The bell above the door clinked, a hollow sound swallowed by the quiet. A frayed rug lay underfoot, and dim lights flickered. An elderly woman looked up from the counter, her eyes widening. "Quick!" the masked man urged, whisking Jasmine behind a shelf filled with dusty books and curios. "What is happening?" she whispered, bewilderment flooding her. "Listen," he said, lowering his voice, his brow furrowed like a dark storm cloud. "I'll explain everything, but we have to stay quiet." She peered around the edge, heart thumping. The sound of footsteps echoed outside, heavy and deliberate. The woman behind the counter looked nervous, glancing at the door as if sensing impending doom. "What are they doing?" Jasmine asked, barely able to keep her voice steady. "Tracking you," he muttered, eyes fixed on the door. "This isn't just about me anymore, Jasmine. You're caught in the middle of something way bigger than both of us." Before she could respond, the door swung open violently. 3 masked figures stormed in, their eyes scanning the shop with predatory intensity. Jasmine's breath caught in her throat. They looked like wolves on a hunt, and she was their prey. "Split up." One of the figures barked, their voice harsh and commanding. Jasmine pressed back against the shelf, her stomach twisting. She could feel her heart hammering against her ribs as she desperately sought an escape route, anything to break free from this nightmare. The old woman behind the counter raised her hands, visibly trembling. "You're not supposed to be here," she pleaded, her voice quivering. "Where is she?" The leader snarled, glancing around the small, cramped space. Realization hit Jasmine like a slap. She was the one they were searching for. The man beside her met her gaze, his expression a blend of urgency and fear. "Follow my lead. We need a way out. Now." Jasmine's pulse raced as chaos erupted around them. She didn't know how she had gotten swept up in this twisted game, but a single question burned through her mind: what was the truth, and how far would it stretch to save her? A sharp crash resounded as the attackers surged forward, searching with ruthless precision. The masked figure beside her took a step back, eyes darting toward an exit that seemed out of reach. 3 seconds, he whispered, "then we run." She nodded, fear electrifying her every nerve. But just as she prepared to sprint, a revelation hit her, striking like lightning. She wasn't just being hunted, she was a key to something catastrophic. As he began to move, the tension in the air thickened, swirling with uncertainty. Would they escape? What awaited them beyond the doors of this shop? The question twisted in her gut as they prepared to make their move, but only one truth remained: uncovering the mystery could cost them everything again. What had they underestimated? What consequences loomed as they stepped into the unknown? The air was electric, charged with fear and unspoken truths. As the masked figures advanced, their movements were swift and calculated. Jasmine's heart hammered violently against her ribs, a drum echoing her rising panic. "Now!" the man hissed, grabbing Jasmine's wrist, and they surged forward, pushing past a shelf that had been their only haven moments before. They barreled toward the back of the shop, where light flickered through a doorway and exit. The old woman's voice trailed behind them, pleading, "You can't just leave us." But Jasmine didn't look back. Her world had shrunk to the desperate need to escape. As they reached the door, a sound sliced through the tension, the unmistakable click of a gun being cocked. "I'll count to 3. The leader shouted from the store, his voice sharp like glass. 1, 2. Panic seized Jasmine. She kicked the door open, cold night air mixing with the heat of fear rushing through her. The masked man pulled her into the dark alley, blending seamlessly into the shadows. The rain continued to pour, washing the streets clean but chilling them to the bone. Yet all she felt was fire, a wild mix of survival instinct and dread. "Where do we go?" Jasmine whispered, the rain soaking her to the skin, her throat raw with fear. "There's a car waiting just around the corner." "We can't stop until we're in it," he said, his voice a low rumble, filled with determination. Just then, another shout echoed behind them, slicing through the night like a knife. "Get them!" Jasmine dashed forward, feet pounding against the slick pavement. Cold water splashed around her ankles as they rounded the corner, and her breath came in frantic gasps, each inhale like a reminder of how close danger lurked. As they reached the end of the alley, a car's headlights cut through the darkness. The side door swung open, revealing a figure inside. "Hurry!" the driver urged. The masked man shoved Jasmine inside, climbing in after her, and the door slammed shut, sealing them in a cocoon of chaos. "Drive!" he barked at the driver, who didn't need to be told twice. The engine roared to life, and they were off, tires squealing against the wet road. Jasmine's heart raced, her eyes darting between the masked man and the driver. "What is going on?" Who are you? She pressed, her voice trembling with urgency. Not safe here, the driver responded curtly, her focus on the road, weaving through the rain-slicked streets. We need to get to the safe house. Safe house? Jasmine echoed, the words tasting foreign on her tongue. What do you mean? Still masked, the man looked at her, his gaze piercing through the shadows. You're involved in a game much bigger than you realize. Those men inside the shop, they want something from you. Something that could change everything. What? What do I have that's so important? He hesitated, the silence stretching thickly between them. You don't know, but you hold a key to a secret that powerful men will kill for. Jasmine felt like she had been punched in the gut. A secret? What kind of secret? Just as he opened his mouth to answer, a flash of lights surged from behind them, illuminating the interior of the car. Two black SUVs, engines growling as they bore down on them. Go faster. The driver shouted, and they surged forward, adrenaline pumping through Jasmine as everything around her turned into a blur of lights and shadows. The masked man turned to Jasmine, his expression serious. We're not just fleeing, we're about to uncover a truth that could destroy lives. Are you ready for that? Before she could respond, gunshots rang out, shattering the night's tension. The bullets whizzed past, loud and jarring. Hold on. The driver yelled, veering wildly. Jasmine's heart dropped. She had dived headfirst into a world of fear and lies, and now there was no way back. What waited for them at the safe house? And what would they uncover about the true nature of her involvement in all this? The weight of everything pressed down on her, suffocating her with dread. As chaos erupted outside, Jasmine's thoughts spiraled. Could she live with the truth? She might soon discover. And would it cost her everything, including her life? The car slung around the corner, tires skidding like a rock skipping across a pond. Jasmine pressed against the door, her chest heaving with each frantic breath. Outside, the rain drummed angrily against the roof, but inside, the air hung heavy with tension. Bullets peppered the back of the vehicle, sharp cracks punctuating the rush of wind. They're gaining on us. Hold tight. The driver shouted, her hands gripping the wheel with a fierce determination. Jasmine exchanged a brief glance with the masked man. His eyes held a mixture of fear and resolve, and she felt a surge of vulnerability. They were trapped in a rapidly spiraling nightmare, but could he really help her? Who are those guys? Jasmine screamed over the chaos, but he just shook his head, focused on the road. Does it matter? He yelled back. We need to survive first. The other vehicles tailgate them, the men inside relentless. Just when it seemed they might shake them off, another barrage of gunfire erupted, shattering the night and scattering her already jumbled thoughts. Damn it! The driver swerved to avoid another volley. They know what you've got, Jasmine. We need to get to the safe house. It's the only chance we have. She could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears, drowning out everything else. But what do I have? Panic clawed at her throat, strangling clarity. What do they want from me? Without waiting for a reply, the driver made a sharp left onto a narrow, unlit street. The tires screamed as they skidded, nearly losing control. Jasmine braced herself, wondering if she would ever feel safe again or if she'd ever find out the truth. As they rounded another corner, a figure appeared out of the shadows, a man standing right in the path of the car. He flagged them down, desperation etched on his face. No! The masked man shouted, reaching forward just as the driver jerked the wheel to the right. But there was no avoiding it. They hit the figure hard, the car jolting violently before the weight of it pushed them off balance. Jasmine gasped, her stomach lurching painfully. Did we? She couldn't finish the thought. The world outside had blurred into a whirlpool of fear and confusion. The driver swore under her breath, glancing into the rearview mirror. We can't stop now. We have to go. The masked man cracked his window. You! Get in! He shouted, directing his voice at the fallen man. A flicker of recognition crossed Jasmine's mind, but it was lost in the press of adrenaline. The man hesitated, looking around as if evaluating his chances. Then he sprang into action, scrambling into the back seat, breathless. "Drive!" he urged, and without a second thought, they surged forward again. "Who are you?" Jasmine gasped, caught between terror and curiosity. "I'm your ally. They won't stop hunting until they get their hands on the information you carry," he said, trying to catch his breath. "And we're running out of time." "Information?" Jasmine echoed, her voice barely a whisper now. The pieces danced teasingly in her mind, but nothing set itself into place. The driver glanced in the rearview mirror, a fierce fire igniting in her eyes. "There's no way back, Jasmine. Just forward. It's time to reveal the truth." But as they sped on, the growl of the approaching SUVs filled the air, a dark promise of violence and betrayal. Jasmine felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her, each heartbeat echoing against her ribs. Could this race for safety unveil not just secrets, but her own past? The road ahead narrowed, winding deeper into the darkness. Jasmine understood then that nothing would be the same. Her fight was just beginning. Was she ready to face whatever lay around the bend? As fear twisted in her gut, one question lingered: what awaited her at the safe house, and whose life would it change forever? The rain poured harder than ever, each drop heavy with the threat of doom as Jasmine felt the weight of the evening settle around her shoulders. The car sped down the narrow road, the muffled thrum of the engines behind them raging like a wildfire. Heart racing, she locked eyes with the masked man beside her. She needed to know, needed answers, and fast. "Tell me about this information," she pressed, breathless. "What have I gotten myself into? Who are they?" His face softened, perhaps realizing the gravity of her predicament. "Jasmine, I just say it." She barely contained her frustration. "They're coming for me. For you." "What do they want?" He took a deep breath, his sky-blue eyes swirling with shadows. "The last name I carry isn't just a name, it's a key. It unlocks doors to a world of power, and that world is after you because you have something monumental." "What do you mean?" She gulped, trying to keep up with the revelation. "What do I have?" "You're linked to a deal. A merger your family was involved in years ago. They thought it buried, but it wasn't. You hold the last piece of the puzzle that gives access to it all. They think you know the truth." The back seat passenger shifted nervously, eyes darting around. "We don't have time for this," he said. "They're catching up." The masked man grimly nodded, pushing the urgency of the frames ahead. "We need to reach the safe house. We'll figure it all out there." Jasmine dug her nails into her palms, processing the bombshell. The very thought of her family being embroiled in something so dark sent her mind spinning. "But I don't know anything. How can I help?" "There's a trace of a deal, papers that vanished, hidden because it led to bloodshed. You may think you're not part of it, but you are. And now you're their target." Before she could respond, a gunshot echoed, shattering the night. The driver swerved, heart pounding, nearly losing control. "Hang on!" she shouted, and Jasmine braced herself. The sleek frame of a black SUV pulled up beside them, the driver aiming out the window. "They're right next to us!" Jasmine screamed, darting in the car. "Get low!" the masked man shouted. The sound of shattering glass erupted. Jasmine shrieked, the splatter near her ear making blood run cold. How could this be happening? Who were these people? "Hold tight!" the driver yelled, veering into a side street, and that's when they saw it ahead, a gated entrance, a point of refuge. "Faster!" Jasmine screamed, panic squeezing her chest. They whipped around the corner, tires screeching as she spotted the glimmer of hope. The safe house. The driver maneuvered sharply, ramming the guard rail. "We're almost there." But before they could speed through the gates, a dark figure emerged, flagging them down. This time, the masked man shot out the window. "Stop!" he shouted. "It's us." Jasmine held her breath. They skidded to a halt. The figure was a woman, fierce, determined, like a warrior dressed for battle. She threw open the door and leaped inside. "Get us inside, now!" she barked. The moment they cleared the gated entrance, a sense of urgency erupted. "What's the plan?" Jasmine asked, her tone laced with desperation. The masked man wasted no time. "We need to pull the files about the merger." "It's got everything," he said, the weight of their reality sinking heavily. "Files?" she echoed. "What files?" He turned to her, determination blazing. "The truth. The truth that LL stopped them and protect you." As they hurried through the hallway, the lights flickered ominously. They poured into a large room lined with shelves filled with boxes and scattered papers. "In there," the woman pointed, moving fast. "Let us hope we're not too late," the masked man replied, turning to her again. "You were brave back there. I need you to be that way. We're fighting for more than survival now. It's our chance to change things." He acted like an anchor, giving her the power she desperately needed. "Okay, let us do this," Jasmine replied, swallowing her fear, her heart racing. With nimble fingers, she started rifling through the files, adrenaline coursing through her. She began to piece together the puzzle of her family's secrets, memories intertwining with the horrors of the night. Each paper ignited a stray thought, a potential answer. They were racing against time, their existence intertwined more than they realized, but then a deafening crash disrupted their search. The door slammed open. Panic erupted in the air as masked figures poured in, faces revealing malice. "Get back!" shouted the woman, throwing herself forward, pushing Jasmine behind her. Time seemed to stand still as Jasmine stared into the eyes of danger. This was it, the storm crashing over them, the battle they fought not just for themselves but for a truth that could alter everything they understood. "Get the files!" the man hissed, urgency flooding his voice. "How?" Jasmine stammered. "It's all in your name," he shouted. "Fight back." This was her moment. She felt the fury rise within her like a wildfire as she scanned the room, ready to protect what mattered most. As chaos erupted, Jasmine took a deep breath, realizing that this was her battle now too. The truth had to prevail, and it would take all of them to bring light to the darkness that pursued them. Tonight, the storm wasn't just raging outside, it was igniting in her soul a declaration that no matter the cost, they would face the truth together. They had to. And in that tumultuous moment, in the heart of the storm, hope glimmered, a flicker that wouldn't be snuffed out. Now it was time for Jasmine to stand tall, no longer an observer in someone else's story. She would step into her power. She was ready to fight. You need to subscribe now to catch the next chapter of this gripping saga. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep these stories rolling. Don't forget to flood the comments with your theories about what happens next. You have to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to dive into this thrilling conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to spread the excitement. Your support matters more than ever.